Welcome, everyone. Good morning. Happy to have our next r744.com live stream session today. So my name is Marc Chasserot. I'm the founder and publisher of r744.com, which is the world's leading resource marketplace for CO2 refrigeration, whether that's refrigeration, chillers, or heat pumps. So also on the heating side of things, which is also a very topical subject right now. We've started a series of live stream sessions with different experts from around the world, different companies, different backgrounds, different products. And today we're going to talk with Jim VanderGiessen. I hope I've pronounced it well. Jim is American. He's been running a family business for a few decades now, and he's become a big advocate of CO2 and has actually launched a CO2 chiller product in the US, which is a big deal. So we're really happy to have Jim join us today to share his journey, where he's from, what made him tick, what made him go CO2, what he's thinking for the future, and, just generally how he runs his business and the markets he's in. So Jim, welcome.
Thank you. Thank you. It's great to be here.
Yeah. No, I've been looking forward to this one. I guess the most, as we were preparing for this interview, you've been running your business now for 20, 30 years. I mean, you co-founded it with your father, correct?
Correct. When I was 21. So
when you're 21, right? So you've been in this business for several decades now, and you've been basically targeting a number of different industries and selling a variety of different chillers with different refrigerants, but mostly currently it's 404A, correct?
That's correct.
But now you're in CO2. Mm-hmm. Why? Why? I mean, why didn't you just carry on? Why didn't you just carry on with the synthetics? I mean, that's the big question that I have, is like, what happened? What made you say, okay, I've been doing this for decades, I'm doing well, and now actually I want to do something different? And it's quite a big change.
It is, and how it started was it was kind of your traditional whiteboard executive planning meeting that we had, and it was December of 2020. Okay. And we had hired an expert to come in, and he was one of these no ideas is ridiculous. Let's hear him out. And he had done. We had a new VP of sales that had joined the company that had spent some time in Europe, and he was sitting in the back of the room, and he said, "Had you ever considered building a CO2 chiller?" And me and
you probably thought, what the hell is he talking about?
In my great wisdom, I think I even told the expert that I know that you said there wasn't any ridiculous ideas, but with how far of a lift, or how big of a lift, and how hard that would be, I just don't think that's an idea we could even consider. So we had a little bit of debate on it, but it wasn't something we seriously considered until, it was only a few weeks later I got a call from one of my customers, and I think he posed the exact same question, which, hey, had you considered building a CO2 chiller? And I said, I was having this discussion with my executive team, and what do you think? And at that meeting, he had shared with me, they had done some large warehouse cooling projects using CO2, and he had partnered with a group out of South Africa, a group of young engineers who were he was very impressed with, and they were looking to make some contacts here in the US. So that's really what once I got linked in with them, I started learning more about it. We kind of said, okay, we thought this might work. We saw the benefits, which right away for the markets we serve, which is dairy. We cool milk and beer. Those are the two main products that we focus on serving. And we knew, for one thing, that in the dairy industry, heat recovery was key. And we were losing some business.
Okay, so wait. So there's a lot of things you're trying to say here. So let's unpack it a little bit.
Okay.
All right. So you can mention the South African outfit, right? Because they're well known right now.
Future Green Now. Yes.
Future Green Now. So that's a kind of a new name in this space, but the people behind it have been in this industry, in CO2 industry. Vineland is a founder.
Yes.
He's He's been around for since the beginning, really, for nearly 50, at least 15 years. I've known him.
Yes.
And he's one of the brightest engineers out there. And I'm guessing he's watching this live stream. So hi, Vinan.
I hope so.
Yeah. So okay, but before you even talk to him and his team,
yeah,
you're saying that you had one of your executives that said, "Hey, I've just been in Europe. They're doing this already, or I've worked with CO2. It's not rocket science." Then a couple of weeks later, your biggest customer says, "Hey, have you heard of CO2?" You're starting to connect the dots.
Correct.
I mean, but again, you've been doing this business for decades. Why did you even listen to these guys? You could have just said, "Nah, that's a freak. No, it's not going to happen. It's no one's doing this in the US. We don't need to. The regulatory pressure isn't there, et cetera, et cetera." Why did you do it? Why did you think, okay, I'm going to try something different?
Well, because when we started building our equipment, the application was very difficult. Over the years, competition had gotten a lot tougher. There was and we're not a large firm, so it was another way.
But you're one of the market leaders right now, right? So most market leaders, they sit in comfort, they milk it, they enjoy the moment, right? Sometimes stop innovating.
My team, I'm never happy. I'm always I'm always convinced we're one step away from getting replaced. But and that's what it was. It might have started as how it did, but every step we took, it reaffirmed that this was the right direction. And I knew if I didn't do it, that eventually, because it was proving out how it was going to be the solution that my best customers were going to be choosing. So
they would have gone to your competitors if you didn't do it, right?
Exactly.
Okay. So you just want to make sure that you're there first with the transition, right?
And be part of it.
And be part of it and lead. And you're effectively leading. So kudos.
Thank you.
I mean, it's a pretty big deal. I mean, you're a small business, but you're not that small, and you've been successful. You've been around for decades, so it means something. In all these difficult times that we've been through, all these recessions and restructuring of industries and technology transitions. So the fact that you're still there and still wanting to grow and still wanting to innovate is testament to the fact that you know what you're doing. Yeah. So, and we've had many conversations over the last year, and I really enjoy talking with you because you kind of you're thinking this is an entrepreneur that's he's got some. He wants to make a difference. It actually matters to you.
It does. Yeah.
Yeah. It's not just money. It's not just about business. It's actually, you want to
make a
difference.
Earning is important,
right?
though.
Yeah. I get it. Right. You all have to pay a paycheck at the end of the month, right? It's key.
Right.
Otherwise there's no point. But you want to do the right thing. Is this your way of kind of saying, okay, I'm doing the right thing? Is it a little bit? Does it make you feel a little bit better here?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. And I'm proud. I'm proud when my kids say that they're proud of, what I'm doing. And
so they actually care about this stuff. They know about it. They think about it. Yeah, really. They go, good job,
They're
Dad.
a lot smarter than I am. Yeah.
Yeah, but that's the key generation, right? They're the ones that are going to have to deal with this mess. Okay. So, all right. So now how did you get to know Vinan and his team? Because, they're in South Africa. You're in Colorado. It's not the other side, not exactly next door. So how did you connect? How did that happen? So because you had to look for a CO2 guy, right?
We did. Well, I was introduced to him from my customer, Sam Wilson.
Okay.
He's with Advanced Racks and we've manufactured equipment for him, but it was through the introduction from Sam that I was brought. Yeah. And immediately I realized these were the guys that I wanted to partner with. And we were engaged with them. They were our design engineers through the entire first project. And even as far as having Sean, Vinan's assistant, coming out to California for the field commissioning.
Okay, so, and that was last year, right?
Correct. Well, we have almost a year of operation now.
Okay, so how's it doing?
It's doing great. It's doing good. I will be working with FGN after we hit our 1 year anniversary, and we're going to do a complete synopsis of the year. We've made some tweaks and adjustments on the system as we've gone through the year, but we've been cooling over 100,000 pounds of milk every day since it's been installed successfully. They're producing all of their hot water is being generated using the heat off the gas cooler.
So that's a big deal, right, in dairy production, right? Because there's a lot of hot water that you need to produce, correct? And this is one of the big advantages of CO2, I guess.
It is. It's one that for us, we use it to help justify the cost difference, which it is. It's the system price can double versus if you go with a very basic standard system versus our CO2 package, it is a significantly higher investment.
But all right, it's a significantly higher investment. Is that also because you just don't have a scale? You've basically not produced enough of these to just, it's more expensive, right? But when you start producing a similar amount, do you expect, I mean, in Europe where there's where the technology has scaled in different applications, the CO2 is actually cheaper.
Correct.
So,
and we do see that. Where we see the price differentiation for us, it comes from the control system. We're using the Danfoss, and that's versus our own microprocessor control system that we're able to utilize for our 404A system. So it's there's a lot of reasons. And
okay, so it's the components. So I mean, I guess one of the reasons why you're a partner of r744.com is that you want to get that kind of global exposure to and credibility, because once you're on that marketplace, you are one of the best, right, when it comes to CO2. And my guess, and you said this, is that through that exposure, you're hoping to also enter into conversations with maybe different suppliers of specific components so that you can really optimize on the cost side. Is this something, I mean, this is key for you, right? Because this is, if you're going to grow your business with CO2, you're going to have to streamline that. You're going to have to, you're going to have to play competition between different suppliers, I guess, to your advantage, right? And this is, what are the things that you have in mind there in terms of how to optimize the system from a component side and supplier side? Is that something that you're willing to discuss?
I am. I mean, and it's not rocket science what we're doing. We're doing it, across all of our product lines, and that's we're trying to get 2-3 deep on our options for all of our components, and we're trying to work with as many. When the pandemic hit and all the supply chain challenges came, it wasn't about price. It was just getting availability and getting access to pricing and finding the suppliers. And that's what we're doing now is just, and you're right, that was a big part of us and part of a reason for joining your organization was the access to the supplier network, specifically for the CO2 components. We've worked with Bitzer for many years, for decades. We've worked with a lot of our suppliers that are not only supplying the CO2 line, but the 404A line. So, but you
do want to diversify a little bit, I guess, right?
Absolutely.
Where are the bottlenecks right now in terms of types of, which are the components where you see opportunities to find new partners or additional partners? I think our team is doing good. We're on our fifth, we're producing our fifth model, so we are getting down, and that's been helpful. When you do go talk to these, and it's talking to the vessel manufacturers, it's talking to the actuator manufacturers, and when they do hear our plan, where it is, it's not assembly line, but we don't have much variance, especially on our refrigeration bill of material to what we're building. So we're able to provide some assurance of using the allocation, that prior to building a CO2 chiller system, I'd never had to ask a supplier for a special allocation of materials. I'd always just assumed that I could get whatever was needed. So I learned right away that no, I got to make sure that the supplier, not only has the component, but they have, that they will have the component available to offer us. Sure.
So that was
I mean, you're really at the beginning of this journey, right, with CO2. Yes. I mean, do you feel that maybe you're over-engineering sometimes, putting too much cost on your end to just make sure that you deliver a great product and service? Is that that, but once you've ramped up a little bit on the production side and you have more clients using CO2, that you'll be able to optimize that cost side a bit more?
Absolutely. And we do it on every unit. Prior to this call, we were, realizing we had valves that, we had put in just in case, and we'll constantly be evolving. the system for that. Absolutely. Going to pre-bent tubing, doing, just taking a lot of the steps out is going to come, really help us decrease the base costs to produce. And we're excited about that. We're definitely got initiatives going for that on those in that direction also.
Okay. So the dairy you set up about a year ago, started up about a year ago, and now just last week you were in Alaska, right, for another startup.
Correct.
Well,
Yep.
are you able to tell us a little bit about it? This is with CO2, obviously, and this is a different industry.
Yeah, both of our first CO2 system went to Youngsma Dairy down near Bakersfield, California. That system has been in for almost a year. It is working fantastic, or has been working well and serving the facility good. One of the conditions we made with him was that he keep a portion of his old system there for backup, and fortunately we've not had to rely on that, so that's been good. But
and that backup was 404A, right?
Correct, and it's a system we provided him. So it's and
so now you can recycle it.
Exactly. Well, I think he is looking to phase it out. It was and he had 120 horsepower, I think was the equivalent cooling of his previous system, which and now he has 100 horsepower with CO2. So we have less horsepower, and we're cooling his product, a few degrees colder than he was able to do before also.
Okay.
So it's a double benefit. And then also we're doing his hot water heating, which for him is 3,000 gallons a day of 180 degree water. He's
a big deal.
To produce. And then in Alaska, it's our longtime customer, Denali Brewing, and they're up in Talkeetna, Alaska, and they're Alaskans, and they're paying, I think 70 cents a kW at times for power. They're buying power off diesel generators, at certain times of the year. So they were excited about being able to use this as a heat source. They've got more uses for the heat than we can count. So we're super excited about that. And as well as, and one thing to generate the heat is a solid cooling load. And they're installing a new an inline pasteurization system for a distilled canned cocktail beverage. So that was what prompted the CO2 system. But when I talked to Denali, he did not intend to buy a CO2 chiller. It was just
because he's one of your regular customers, and you were thinking, okay, what's your latest 404A product, right?
Yep.
Or the HFO blend that's replacing 404A. I think it's 44AA. 44AA, I think is the one, right?
That's the one we got here.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. So okay. So so he hadn't even thought about CO2. So how did you educate him about this end user?
Well, I love an excuse to make a trip up to Alaska to see him. So I did make the trip up, and we reviewed the project, and we had done, if you go on our website, we've got a really good, a lot of information there. And so he had done some pre-reading on that, but they are concerned with the climate up there. They're a very forward-thinking company in that regard also. And it just kind of fit, it was, I went into the presentation, we started hitting the bullets, and he was like, okay, he kind of said, I think this is the system we want. And how soon, we were realistic on the timeline, because it took about 7 months from the time we started till the time we, this past week, I've got a technician coming back tomorrow from Alaska to finalize their commissioning. But
so he still went for CO2, even though it's more expensive.
Yes. But it was and when you calculate the cost of propane that they're using now to heat and other things like that, it's not a hard
so when you look at
argument.
the bigger picture. Okay.
Absolutely.
So what are the things that they're going to do with the heat? Because you said that there's a lot of different things that they can do with this.
Well, they run a distillery, which, that all the distillery uses a tremendous amount of boiler heat. I was talking to their facilities guys. I was up there at the start of the field commissioning, and he was just rubbing his hands. He said, I can just imagine, they have multiple boilers in this facility.
Okay.
He said, I can just imagine being able to feed these boilers with 150 degree Fahrenheit water. He said that, those were just goals. So, and just the assurance he gave me, and that was kind of one of our issues at the Bill Young's Maderi, we are generating 3,000 gallons of water, but we could be generating more. That's just what we're limited there really on his hot water storage capacity too. So it'll be nice to now have the second site where we can really do some in-depth study of the heating side of it.
So that kind of, if you think about all your customers, and you have customers across different industries, right?
Correct.
Dairy, brewery,
wineries.
Wineries.
I see wineries as a huge opportunity. Yeah,
this is like the sky's the limit here. There's going to be so much opportunity, and you've got already these customers. So this is like, hey, you want to upgrade? We've got the perfect solution for you. I mean, is this you can see a lot of potential, right, in the next couple of years for you.
Absolutely. Right now, it's, honestly, it is easy because I'm just targeting my best customers and the ones that I know it'll provide it. And I've been building, equipment for these markets too for a while. So I know them, and I've already talked to most of the people who I know, and who I want is any of these customers when they got to make a decision and they know when they need to add 100 horsepower of extra cooling capacity, just to let them know this is available, and let's sit down, let's talk about it, and let's run the numbers. And that's what we're doing now.
So usually the customer that's calling is saying, hey, we want extra capacity because our business is growing and we need help. What do you have on offer, right? It's not about replacing a whole system. It's more about adding more capacity, correct?
We have both. You're right, but we do have both. We have new projects, but common is the adding capacity. That's
okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Retrofit is huge.
But the vast majority of your business today is still HFC based, right? So what's and it's normal given your history, right? No, that's just the reality, right? But you've now got interested in CO2. You've now actually got some products. You're installing them across the US. Well, you've installed 2, to be clear. But what about the next 20? When do they come?
They're right on and that's nice. We do have, we only have 2 today, but within 90 days or 120 days, we should have 4, and I have 4 of the next 5.
You're going to double
Exactly,
over the summer.
Exactly. But one thing that's nice is like 4 out of the next 5 are all going to be within 50 miles of Bill Young's Maderi. So we're creating a nice, which is giving us, the ability to we're working with one of our key regional dealers. We've got an industrial partner, in Sacramento who's not far, that's on hand to support that group of people. And it's really helping us get our feet under us and learn a lot. And we are. Damon Reed is heading up that group, and he's just doing a fantastic job.
Okay. So then, if we're looking like a couple of years from now, how much of your business is going to be from CO2? What do you project? What do you think?
I mean, our goal, and we'll hit it in 2023, is we'll shift 25% of our business to CO2. I think, I don't know if we'll go, it's hard to say. Right now, what I'm seeing the work that's going on with propane. I'm very excited about that. Our commitment is to shift to a natural-based refrigerant. And so I'm not going to be the one. We aren't going to develop a propane system, at least not in the near future. But we're excited to see what's going on.
But you see that there are a lot of propane players, a lot of propane chiller manufacturers in Europe, and there's a lot of interest in North America for propane, and legislation is allowing new opportunities, and the technology's there, and there are players there, and so you could imagine at one point, could you imagine yourself having both propane and CO2 chillers?
That's what I imagine. Yeah.
Okay.
Yep. I can imagine. I don't mean it.
No, you go.
I can imagine the 404A. We have 4 production lines right now that are dedicated to 448 or 404A, and just 2 now that are on the naturals. But I can always imagine having, or that the 404A lines would transition over to the propane in that direction. Is just from what I'm seeing, and that's where we're talking down the road a ways.
Okay, so when could you be 100% natural?
Well, every time I answer this question, I get a little nervous, but the soonest I mean, we could possibly do it as soon as 5 years. It would be a big undertaking. I understand that, but depending on this,
I mean, that's pretty courageous and ambitious, I would say. I mean, less than a decade to go from 0 to 100 in naturals is like, it's unheard of.
And I'm assuming that the propane transition to 404A is going to be, I understand it's definitely not as big a lift. I know there's a lot of work to do, but yeah, and I'm making a lot of assumptions also that.
Yeah, but the fact that you're even thinking about this and willing to even put this on YouTube is pretty good. It's pretty.
Yeah,
I mean,
well, that's how I roll. Yeah.
Yeah. But I mean, people will challenge you on that, and they'll refer to this later in the future. But that's great. I mean,
Sure.
that you've got that ambition. That's what we need. I mean, look, we're running out of time. I mean, the world is heating. Big time. We've got heat waves everywhere. North America, Europe, all over the place. And we've had them in Argentina. We've got them obviously in India and Australia. It's all over the place.
Mhm.
And this is just the beginning, right? So every product, every time you install a CO2 chiller instead of a 404A or even a 448A, right? That's a huge difference in terms of CO2 equivalent emissions mitigated. It's a huge deal. And it's over, and these systems are in like, they're running for 15 years, right? 10, 15 years. So
20.
that's, all right. So think about that. The amount of CO2 emissions equivalent you're mitigating, and you can make that happen now. So every project matters because they have huge benefits. So it's great that you're doing it. So yeah, and GWP matters. The difference between a 1 and 1,500 is a huge deal.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean 448A. I think. Correct me if I'm wrong. Let me double check. I don't want to be
It's just under 4,000 on a GWP. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean 448A. It's 1,400 years. But if you apply the real impact over 20 years, it's 3,100. That's definitely not low. Nowhere close to low. And CO2 remains 1, whether it's 20 or 100. So there, bang, huge difference, huge difference. So, okay. What about the fact that, you attended Atmosphere America last month? Yeah, it's just a month ago. We were in DC, right? And you attended that and you heard this conference that we hosted, this whole discussion around water acidification, basically polluting our fresh water that's coming from these new HFO blends that's being discussed very seriously in Europe. In America, it's still kind of, what? Have you heard? What's this? I haven't heard of this. And it was really interesting to see the reaction of people attending the conference in the US to see this for the first time. Did that make you think? Because you've actually got some 448 systems that you're selling, right? And there's potential environmental issues there. What does that make you think?
Yeah, it makes me wish I had more resources, to push
transition faster.
There's no shortage of opportunities. Yeah, that's it's a big issue and it's a real issue, and I think everyone's realizing the impact we can make. It's hard to ignore, that's for sure.
Okay. I mean, I'm not trying to put you on the spot or anything, because I know you've got to run a business and feed some mouths, right?
Yeah.
But this topic of TFA and water acidification of HFOs is something that's going to be with us for the next few years. So there's going to be more and more awareness around that. So it's just a matter of time before people really more and more pay attention and say, okay, what are my alternatives? The good news here is that you've got CO2 and you've already thinking about propane. So awesome.
Right.
And you want to be 100% within the next 5 years. I mean, say by the end of the decade, that's still huge. You'll be a massive success story. Could you imagine yourself supplying these products outside North America or outside the US? To Canada, maybe, or to Mexico?
Oh, we do. Absolutely. Okay. Canada,
okay.
we ship a good number of systems to Canada and to Mexico and South America. Yeah. And
South America too?
Yes.
Okay. Because in South America, we talk to a lot of different players down there, and there's a real interest in moving to natural refrigerants.
Okay.
In some cases, their awareness is even ahead of what we're hearing in the US. because they follow a lot of what's going on in Europe, right? Because of the history and the relationships that are there.
Absolutely.
And so they see that transition happening, even if there isn't the regulatory pressure. There is still there's a lot of interest. So I wouldn't be surprised if one of your customers in South America comes knocking and says, "Hey, what about a CO2 solution?" Hopefully, after watching this video, they'll say, "Hey, I want a CO2 system now." You know,
Love to provide an option. Yeah, and we have one. We've got a good one.
Okay, so you tell us a bit about the markets that you're in, because there's many different markets there, many different end user applications, right?
Correct. I mean, and I mentioned before, beer and milk are the two main
Biggest
products
ones.
we serve. But yeah, those are the craft beer market, for example. We build systems as small as 3/4 horsepower that go all the way up to several hundred horsepower, and those go from the large production breweries all the way down to the breweries brewing 1 or 2 barrels at a time. So it's we're able to, and how we go to market in those industries, we sell our equipment directly to the OEMs who package the systems together for the end users. And then down the road, as they expand, grow, we'll oftentimes work directly with the end users or with the dealers to grow. And on the dairy side, we've got I mean, that's why we got into the business of building chiller systems. I tell people I'm a 3rd generation milk cooler. A lot of dairy farmers will introduce themselves as a 3rd generation dairy farmer. But my family, my grandpa was one of the first to have a refrigerated milk tank, on his dairy farm. And then that evolved into his first business, which was installing. And him and my dad, back in the day, they were an installer of equipment. So, I mean, I've grown up, I was on the installation crew in the summer times, putting milk tanks in. And where the Pro Chiller came from was when it just became impossible for dairy farmers to effectively cool the milk using a plate, inside of a storage tank. And that was how it was cooled before. And then we went to a glycol, a coolant-based system using a heat exchanger to instant cool the milk. And as dairies continue to grow and ramp up, and consolidate, especially in the US, you're seeing the smaller farms consolidate to larger farms, and then cooling becomes only a larger problem or a bigger obstacle. So that's when our product was developed, and that's been continuous. It's been continuous development focused on cooling milk and beer really for the last 20 years. And with wineries, we do a lot in the wine industry. We've got some great customers there. And for CO2 especially, we've had some great conversations with like I said, some of our best customers in that field. And we're excited to be. I think very soon we'll be putting out some information on some of those projects.
Great. So happy to. I'm looking forward to us writing stories about this when they come out. Okay. All right. Well, as we prepared for this interview, we wanted to cover a few things. Your background, the company, the industries, the technologies. I mean, is there something that we haven't covered yet that you want to share with the live audience?
Just only that it was doing this. It was a big feat, and it was a lot more work than we planned. But I got to give credit to the team that did it. And I mentioned before Damon Reed, but we also had incredible support from our suppliers. Super Radiator Coils has been providing us surface for our standard line, and they stepped up, and they've been, it's been fun to kind of go through the process with them and seeing them, seeing how, this is an industry for them. I was on the phone with them recently. Bitzer Compressor, Alpha Lavelle, and that's what's been really nice. Is just the partnership we've had with them and the support we got from them as we went through this process. But it's been great, and it took longer. I always say this, and it costs more money, and as it always does. But we have hit every goal that we set, going into this, and more. It seems like we've been able to accomplish. So it's just a testimony to them.
Great. No, I think it's always great teams, great leaders always have great teams, right? Yeah. So, well, kudos to you for stepping up though and listening to your crazy executive. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, not just blowing them away and say, that's crazy. Go back to Europe. No. So it's good. It's good that you listened, and obviously your customer has been listening well too. So and you partnered up with the right guy. Okay. Well, look, I'm happy with this interview. I don't want to prolong it if it's not necessary. So if we've got questions from anyone listening to this, now is the moment to ask. Otherwise, what we've seen over time is that people submit questions on the actual YouTube itself. Once we share this on YouTube, and then we'll obviously share it with others, and we'll write an article about this and just continue sharing this content. Look, Jim, I'm really happy that you agreed to do this. I know that you felt uncomfortable doing it so early on that journey, but I think it's really key because it can maybe inspire others.
I hope so.
To follow suit. And to not be afraid. It's not rocket science, right? As long as you got the right guys and the right team, and there are plenty of people that can help you and that want to help you,
That's right.
you can change things fast and make an impact now. And it goes back to that, those GWPs, they matter. They really do matter.
Yeah.
So yeah, so well done.
I appreciate it. Thanks for the opportunity.
All right. Take care and see you soon.
All right, thanks.
I want to go to that one. I want to go to that one in Alaska and have a nice
Let's do
beer.
it.
Okay.
Oh,
I really do. I really do.
I'll send you when I'm going to be up there next. It'll be in a few weeks. Let's go.
Cool.